All right. Well, I'm going to bring up Jamie real quick from Ohio.
All right.
No pronouns. He wants to continue a conversation that he had with you, Scott. So we had a conversation that Galaxy had with me, and now we're going to have one that Jamie had with you. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
All right.
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Awesome. What do you got for Jamie? What do you got for Scott?
Yeah, I don't got any. How about that last caller? I have never even heard of that before, man.
Discordianism?
Yeah, I actually have a Discordian holy symbol on my shelf.
Yeah, Jamie and I have a long history. We there was a time, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago, I suppose now. Time just flies, Jamie. But Jamie and I met on the internet. Jamie is a Christian, and he's a former minister and current apologist. Or is that fair, Jamie, the way to describe you there?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. The apologist is probably my moonlighting gig. Make money. I'm a critical care paramedic, so I do that. Right. Do that full time.
Oh, thank you.
And then I bust your chops part time. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Jamie and I, we met on the internet, and I think I talked about this with Dan on a previous time I was on the show, so I'll keep it brief. But we got together and we've had a long, lengthy conversation, and we recorded a bunch of it and we released it as a podcast. It was called God or Not, and so basically it was just a lengthy discussion. Jamie, I'm curious. I want to ask you something. Has your perspective on talking to atheists changed at all? I know that you're still, wink, wink, still a Christian, right? We know there's a seed in there that's going to bust out pretty soon. But I was curious if our experience together has changed the way that you deal with atheists or that you see atheists.
Yes, actually, in a couple different ways. So first, oftentimes when you're dealing with people online and you're doing stuff via thread, it's really hard to understand, someone's kind of, state of mind or sometimes people aren't very charitable in both camps. And so, but with Scott, I found it was nice. Well, listen, I'm not going to lie and say that everything was a cherry pie and ice cream. I mean, we had some throwdown, sure.
Yeah.
But it was always in a sense of, we could take the gloves off and we could go a few rounds, and then we could kind of pull things back in, and the friendship didn't go anywhere. We were still friends. Like we understood that we could have a discussion and it's not be like a personal thing usually. And so that was kind of nice for me to find someone like that, someone who, so I wasn't just dealing with, people who I found to be angry or maybe too, I was finding wrong places to talk to people in. But another great thing that kind of came about is because I've had so many discussions with Scott, I kind of get a feel when I'm talking to other atheists for which conversations I should continue and would be productive, and which conversations I should probably let go.
So really, what you're saying all I've done for you is help you to sharpen your sword, right? Is that what?
No, I get what you're saying though, Jamie, because I know I get the same thing from my side. When I talk to Christians, I can tell who right away, who you're going to have a good, productive conversation with, and who you're just going to end up turning into a shouting match with. So I try to duck out of those as soon as I possibly can, because I don't want to get into a shouting match. I would rather have a good, productive conversation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one thing that I learned from Sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
I say that was one of the most beneficial things that came out of it. Obviously we have a friendship, and then I was able to deal with an atheist who wasn't just wanting to debate me, but he wanted to be my friend. and that takes the animosity sometimes, the animosity train going down the tracks. That kind of takes steam,
Right.
out of that animosity towards other people when they do want to be your friend, and regardless of your viewpoint, that that friendship is important to them. And so that was a really big thing, because it kind of helped my perspective on, hey, these conversations can be productive. And I found not just productive in terms of my becoming a better apologist because of it, but also learning more about myself, like really having to think hard about, dude, you had some pretty crazy objections that I mean, you had some pretty typical ones too. But I think one time you threw out, we were talking about the resurrection, and you threw out aliens, right? Like, that doesn't happen very often. So I had to really think about certain things that were outside the box, and that's helped me become a better apologist and helped me figure out, which conversations are going to be productive and which ones aren't.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I really liked it. It on the internet, that's where, that's got to be where 99% of the interactions are taking place, is over social media between groups like atheists and theists. Before the internet, I never really saw anybody interacting with like an atheist and a theist having a discussion. But it's so easy. It's so easy. There's so much anonymity, and it's just so easy to walk away from arguments online. Because the mud starts slinging like instantly, and that can be very frustrating. So I appreciate, Jamie, that you tolerated me for as long as you did, because I think that developing that friendship changed our whole perspective on the discussion. It wasn't so much a combat anymore. Now it felt like we were, trying to find the truth together. And so, whether or not we successfully did that, I suppose, remains to be seen. But, it changed my approach. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get very defensive when people pick on my friends. And so when I'm the one picking on my friend, I have to check myself, and I think, oh, okay, I should step back a little bit. If I'm starting to annoy myself with how aggressive I'm getting, then, I need to dial it back. So I think that goes such a long way in these discussions, and on the ACA shows, we try to have productive conversations. And so and we do have some callers that, friendships have developed over, relationships with particular callers have developed, but it's not quite the same when you actually get to know somebody. And when I talk to you, like when there was a time, Jamie, where I would talk to you more often than, really any of my other friends. And so it was really an interesting perspective. And so if I would take anything out of this to kind of pass on to the world, is that, once in a while, take a moment and just get to know a person before you tear into each other. Talk to them. You're going to have things in common. You're going to have things not in common. Jamie is a conservative leaning, somebody from the Rust Belt area, or what, I don't know, is Ohio kind of in that area, but and I'm from the blue state of Minnesota, and left leaning and atheist and likable, whereas James, no, I'm just kidding, but I mean, we're so different in so many ways, but we did have a lot of things in common, and I think it's easy to miss those things. It's easy to skip over the things you have in common and just go straight for the throat. And so, Jamie, thank you for doing that with me. That really gave me an interesting perspective. And I'm nothing if I'm not somebody who is interested in learning new perspectives. I think that's just one of the best ways that you can spend your time.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That would be a good thing for you to start back up if you were thinking about doing something like that, to have that conversation on the internet. I think that would be really interesting for a lot of our viewers.
Yeah, I think that's not necessarily out of the question. So it's, in the end, it came down to a matter of time, and so it was a significant time commitment, and Jamie being a paramedic, his schedule is crazy, and so it became too much of a hassle for us we didn't want it to be work, and so but you never know. You never know what the future will bring.
One good point though about making friends.
Right.
I mean, one of the things people ask me all the time, what's one of the best ways to talk to a theist about, and try to get them to deconvert. And I was like, don't do that. Make them your friend first, because you're going to argue less with a friend. You're going to care about the conversation more, and concentrate on the things that you do have in common. I talk about them all the time. My right-wing evangelical friend, we both like to go fishing. We both like to go rock hunting. We both collect rocks, and we concentrate on the things we have in common, and we stay friends. And then we can kind of talk about these things we don't have in common, and even get into pretty heated discussions sometimes, but still remain friends. So I think it's really important that you two have done that. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
It does make for better, more satisfying conversations, and you learn about as much about yourself as you learn about the other person. And so I would just echo what you said. I think it's a good thumbs up for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before I let you go, Jamie?
No, I appreciate it. I just wanted to call him, bust his chops a little bit, and talk a little bit about
like a true friend would.
Well, thank you for calling, and you can always feel free to call back and discuss your theist views too, if you'd like sometime.